right, so what you're seeing here, sorry, is I did these shoulder cuts first at about 5/8 of an inch deep. Then I just did about 1.5 inch deep right here. And then I'll remove all this excess material and I will leave a tenon, a 1/2 inch tenon here. And I didn't show you guys everything because I just can't waste that kind of time. I got too much going on, way behind. And you know, the first step was taking these two pieces and they had to be exactly the same length. And they had to be square all the way around so that I could use the AccuMiter guide here, which I think hands down this is one of the best old school tools that have been around. You know, this is obviously set to be exactly square to the blade on this particular table saw. I can do my adjustments here, and this is the reason why the both pieces have to be exactly the same length, so that once I set up all my measurements, I butt it to here, and it's going to give me the exact same cut every single time, right, on length. I mean, that all this should go without saying. Of course, I'm trying to work, and I've got family stuff, and you know, it's just, man, I gotta stop looking at the phone when I'm working. Like, no text messages during the day so I could focus on what I'm doing. I had to get these all dialed in first. So these are the feet, and they're 6 inches tall. And this is the top section, and then again, this is the beam that goes between them, which I'm leaving kind of like this, which is going to look super cool. Now, once I get these tenons shaped, then I will be making, I'll find center on these, and I'll be making the mortise. And then I'm going to set that in. And that from that point, I'm going to make a determination where from the edge of this post, how far I want to come with a flat spot, and then we're going to cut an angle down, all right, to the bottom, just like you guys saw me do on the pedestal base. You know, take this whole thing down on an angle, which looks real sharp. And I milled this up. This currently is 3/4 of an inch, but I have to run it through the planer. This is Purple Heart. It doesn't look as purpley because I just milled it, but it's going to richen up just as you guys have seen before. This was cut out of this board here, which I purchased some time ago. Look at the machine marks on this. Like the way that I've never really figured out the process that they use to mill this stuff. This is classified, right? All Purple Heart, White Oak, Osage. There's a lot of Macassar ebony, a lot of woods that are classified as ironwoods, and they call them ironwoods for a reason. You know, they're not actually as hard as iron, but practically, right? So they're super hard on tools. It's not the sort of thing you want to be building a whole piece of furniture out of. But great for accents and important parts, especially the parts that are going to be on the floor here. Works out great. So I purchased this some time ago, and I'll just be cutting parts out of it as I need it. Just a good thing to have. And yeah, let me keep going with this. I don't know. It's getting late in the day already here. It was one of those weird weeks. I've decided to give myself a little bit of a break on this. I mean, I'm already way behind. And now, once I get to that point, I start stressing out. Now I got to kick back a little, because working where you're putting too much pressure on yourself, then that's not a good headspace to be in. And it's just one of those things. So that's one of the reasons why it's hard for me to give a deal on something, because I end up taking longer anyhow, because I want to do the details the way I want to do them, which always takes a little bit more time. And you never know what kind of issues you're going to run into. So, but yesterday I was in here, I basically took the day off from this particular job. You can't tell. There's no way you could tell by looking, but I had to straighten some things out and make order out of some areas here so that I can get to this point. So it's all good. Let me get back to work. Alright, so now I've got to set this fence up here. This is how I do it a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. I'm going to remove material here that'll allow me to just shape a tenon right into place. And thing is, my gauge on here, right, there's a tape measure built into this. It's not accurate. I've got to do a little bit of trial and error on this sort of thing. So just like your table saw, you kind of want to set this as close to your material as makes sense, because there's some guides in here that keep the blade from deflecting. I keep a resaw blade on here. It's like, one tooth per inch. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's a carbide tip blade. It's designed for resawing, which is basically what I'm doing here. And the table and everything is set 90 degrees to this blade. You want to check that on both sides. This, and I move this thing around every night, so every once in a while it gets knocked out of whack, and if I don't check it and I start doing work, I can really screw everything up. I've done that before. Oh, by the way, this is set right. I don't know what's going on. I get these comments sometimes on this Laguna bandsaw where people say that I have this in the release, but if you can see it, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but clearly it says release is that way. So I don't know what they're talking about. Okay, I can still see some of the line. I'm hoping this leaves me with a 1/2 inch tenon. We'll see how this goes, and I'll let you guys take a look at it as I go. The other thing I like to use here is this here, and what this will do is it'll force me up tight against the fence. A little tension on there, and then I'm pretty much golden. So I'm going to pause you for a moment. Alright, I clamped the stop block in here, so which I do sometimes, this way I can't go too far. And hopefully I got it set right. We'll find out. Right on the money. It's exactly a 1/2 inch. That's what I wanted. So after I do the back side of this one and the other one, I tilt this down and I cut the 1.5 inches off. Alright, that part's done. Onto the tenons. Not the tenons, I just made the tenons. Onto the mortises. I just want our love to last. I don't care. That's the way you treat me. I might be making this too deep. That little stop on the side, it's like this weird threaded rod. Yeah, I think it might have made this mortise a little bit too deep. I just want our love to last. Bunch of dust in there. Well, I'm gonna make it anyhow. I mean, I'll test it. The way you treat me. So it's already after 5 o'clock on a Friday. But I got stuck on the phone. Don't call me during working hours because I'm a talker, and you're just gonna kill my productivity. I gotta remind my sister to not text me about BS during working hours. Years ago, there was this incident that happened, and she was mad at me. She was going off, man, on it. And it had me so upset that I made a mistake while I was working that led to me wasting material and added like a week and a half to my time on a project. And that was a serious problem. And I told her, I was like, you cannot do that crap. So, and if we're friends and I care about you and there's some BS going on where you know, like somebody's messing with you, especially if you're a woman and it's a neighbor and it's a dude, you know, that gets in my head and I start thinking like, you know, how am I going to help you? And am I going to have to, you know, get in somebody's grill about something? I really don't want to be that guy, so do me a favor and just try to keep me out of it. It just bothers me when people go after women. I mean, even if they deserve it, you know? Because you're not a man if you're picking on women, you know? And it's not cool, man. Like, even if I know a woman has been pushed somebody to that degree, you know, I'll still have to say something, and that's not cool. Anyhow, you see what I'm doing. I got to concentrate on what I'm doing, so please respect me. Try to keep me out of it, man. Let's see what our depth is here. I think it went too deep. Not by much, so that's good. Almost 3/16 of an inch too deep. So that'll allow me to not have to clean the bottom out on this. I'm making a note here, don't clean. You know, like my house, like my bathroom, like your cast iron pan. Is this too much of a downward angle? So, You want to set that depth correct, so I got to reset that. But the reason being, if you go too deep in the mortise, when you put your glue in, and then you plunge your tenon in here, then what'll happen is your glue will be forced down into that void, and it's not going to do anything. So you want the bottom of your mortise to be pretty close to your tenon. This way, any glue, when you force it in, any glue that you make will push back up, and you'll get more squeeze out. There's a lot of cool little tricks that you could do. You could play with, like you could take a chisel. Like if you just wanted to be extra careful or more sure of yourself, you just take your chisel here, real quick. None of this has to be precise, but basically just kind of cut a groove in here. Cut a couple grooves. And what that'll do is it'll allow the glue a place to channel itself, so it'll come back up. But then what that does is, shoulder I gotta clean out here. I need to use the hammer there, but so just by putting those little grooves in right here, you know, your glue, you'll push this into the mortise. Your glue will come up here, it'll come back up and out, but it'll fill that, and that's more surface area for the glue to bond to. You'll figure it out. I have faith in you. You could do it. Anyhow, this is upside down. This is the top. These are the feet over here. I got to do those. I'm gonna go ahead and double check that. I'm gonna get crank on that so the depth doesn't go any deeper. I'm gonna set it to the proper depth, and I'm gonna finish making these mortises. There's just 4 of them. I'll clean out the ones I got to clean out, and then the next step is. Again, this is upside down. This goes to the bottom of the table. See how light that is? It gets much darker when it's wet. But this is the inside. This is the... And I'm going to put all the voids towards the outside. Meaning, if you walk up to this table in the room... I was going to get the drawing for you. But if you walk up to the table and you see the trestle base, I want the side that has the most character, like this here. I want you to see that. I don't want this one here. The nice side is going to be on the inside. On this one, this more blonde side is going to be on the inside, and the darker side is going to be on the outside. And then this part here is going to be on the outside because that's cool. And you can see what's going on here. So the next step is to measure out about 1 inch from here. Ooh, look at that. I even made the mortise a little wide. That's fine. But I got to find my center exactly. Mark that with a pencil line and come out here about 1 inch past, and then from here I'm going to come up here about 1 inch. I don't know if you guys are seeing all this. Yeah, you can see all that, right? So I'll come in here about 1 inch or so, I'll come up about here about 1 inch or so, and I'm just going to connect those 2 lines. I'm going to eyeball that. I'm going to eyeball because I've been doing this on the bandsaw. I'm going to freehand it. But it's going to be a pretty straight line. And, you know, obviously it won't be attached to this. And then I'll take this piece and that cut, I'll run on the joiner to smooth it out. It'll look like $1 million. And then I'll just, everything else will be done by hand with a hand plane, maybe a file, sandpaper, scrapers, all that good stuff. So we're getting there. You know, if I could just focus on work and not get involved in everybody else's BS, you know. I don't know if I'll shoot any more here for you guys on this today, and I don't know, it's just not that important. But oh, yeah, I'm wearing the Samurai, and this is a horsehide band I made, and I was just had my hand in a fountain doing all kinds of work. I got it totally soaked, drenched. It's not a big deal. Leather, you can actually get it wet like this, especially if it's a single. There's not a lining or anything in it. It's fine. News, just putting this out there, so the because that clothing thing is happening, the hat thing is happening, and all that. I might seek out because I'm covering everything to get the initial things made. But I might seek out an investor for that, because I think that what I'm coming up with, like the details I'm coming up with, are cool enough. I've been putting a ton of research in on this, and I recently went to the Bronson I think it's the Bronson Manufacturing Company. They make clothes in Japan, which is pretty decent stuff, and their prices are actually not crazy for what they're producing. And they reproduce a lot of vintage stuff. I was looking at that, like they got a lot of cool stuff. They reproduce a lot of vintage military stuff. But I'm looking at them going, okay, I see what they got going on here. A lot of my stuff is probably going to cost more, but they're it's going to be better. That's why, and it's going to be made here, at least for now. We'll see how that all works out. But I'm just throwing that out there for those of you that are paying attention, kind of following all these kooky storylines on my channel here. If you know anybody that's wants to be an angel, they call them, you know, people like to invest in good ideas. That's all I'm saying. All right, let me get back to this. I'm losing it. I wanted to mention something to you guys here as I clear out this. You see, it's a different piece of wood. This is 6 inches tall, and I wanted to point out that right here there's a seam, and there's some bolts right here. So I'll show you something in a moment. So I've done stuff much taller in this machine. I had to figure out how to do that. So what I did was I made spacer blocks. It's a process to do it. But I've made a couple really, I did this one gate at one time out of cypress that was 7 feet tall, over 3 feet wide, and like up to 3 inches thick, as I recall, all the rails and stiles. And yeah, the parts I was mortising were, I think they were like 8 inches wide or something. So what I've got in here, I got a bunch of long bolts and I got a bunch of these blocks. So I end up separating this whole the whole motor portion of it right here, and I can put these blocks in and then bolt that right on top of there, and then I can get it, you know, you understand what I'm saying, I can get a much taller piece in there. So again, modifying your tools and just going for it, you can figure it out. I like this cabinet. You know, what's interesting about this cabinet is the bottom of the shelf is right at this level, and I don't know, that's a good spot to stash something in there. There's nothing stashed in mine, so don't get your hopes up. All right, one more mortise, and then on to the next part. All right, so I want to put these leg assemblies together, and I thought this would be an easy thing to do today. And my bandsaw, I hadn't adjusted the guides in a while, so I adjusted them, and when I did that, my blade was a little out compared to the table for square, so I had to adjust that. That took some time, and I was doing that because I had to cut all these tiny pieces, because yesterday, all the distractions I had, I cut these mortises 1 inch too wide. So basically I've got to sandwich the mortises between these two pieces now to shrink that down. And so this is a reason why I ask people, please don't call me when I'm working and distract me. You know, Monday through Friday, 8 in the morning till 6 p.m., don't call. After 8 p.m., don't call. I got a 2-hour window, and during that time, I'm also usually trying to eat and maybe taking a shower. So, you know, it's hard, man. It's hard. That's it. I'm still working. Stick around. It's not over yet. Okay. Good news, bad news. Good news is only on the feet portions did I make that mortise an inch too long. The bad news is, because I was distracted, I forgot to compensate for the top. So I gotta shorten these legs at least 1 3/4 inches, which is this section right here, which just means I have to pick an end and get back up on the table saw and bring this up here and trim the tenon. It'll be a much longer tenon, then I'll cut that to the right length. But all right, I just want to explain this story stick. For some reason yesterday while I was distracted, I forgot to add the top. So that's your top thickness. Now on the bottom of the top, I'm going to do a 1/4 inch mortise where this top piece here is going to set into. You'll see that when I get to it. So that top piece, again, this piece here, is going to set in here. So that's the very top of the trestle. So that measurement from that, you know, it's funny in architecture by the way, for those of you guys that don't know, allow me to brag. I'm not really bragging. It's a long time ago. But when I was in high school, I was the #1 architecture student in my school. And my senior year, I won 3 first place state awards. I won for the best plot drawing, full working set of drawings, and a perspective drawing in color pencil. And I won I didn't win, but I took 3rd place in a 3-hour drafting contest with something like 400 participants from all over New Jersey. And that was I didn't expect to win anything. I actually just signed on to do that to get out of school for the day. Lo and behold, I won. I took 3rd in that one. So my point is I can read plans and all that. And so one of the things you learn, you're never supposed to dimension hidden lines, but I have to do that here. So this is the top of the trestle. So I got to measure from there to here, right? That's this height right here. Then from this edge here where you see the mortise to this piece here, right, is this line here to this line there, which is 20 and 15/16 of an inch. Added to that is 2.5 inches on each side for the tenon. So here's the piece, the vertical post of the trestle, and all I really have to do here, and I'll double check, but is set this up so that this line lines up with this. I don't have to touch this end here, right? Then I go down here and I make a pencil mark. Bam. So now I know that this new shoulder cut has to be at that line. Now what's interesting here is what screws you up, because you're double checking, triple checking. Get my tape measure out for you. That measurement appears to only be 1.5 inches. But the top is 1 3/4 inches. That's because there's a 1/4 inch mortise again right there, and that's what's throwing that off. So which means this is all perfect. So I've got to cut this shoulder. Then from this point, when I get the shoulder to the end of the new tenon, will be 2.5 inches, which means I'll be cutting this tenon short. Obviously by that much, about 1.5 inches. Does that make sense to you? Also on here, you saw my 6-inch foot part, which is right here, starts at this line up to here. What's this? This is this. Now, this is about 3/4 of an inch now. I'm going to run this through the planer. On here, it's at 5/8. So I'm not worried about getting this at 5/8. Standard height for a table's 29 inches. But it fluctuates anywhere from 29 to 30 inches. So I'm going to mill it to make it smooth, top and bottom, and that's going to make it somewhere between 3/4 and 5/8 of an inch. If it's a little bit more than 5/8 of an inch and my table sits a little over 29 inches high, it's going to be fine. I just want to keep you appraised of what's going on, because yesterday I don't want to get into it. Keep watching. One pass for one. now I just have to adjust the blade for this height. Got to use the other stop here. It's fine. Stick around. Got this piece of 1/2-inch plywood hooked between this and that to space me out enough so that this stop, I haven't touched it, will catch me right there where I need to be so everything's still registered. Should work. That's awesome. Now we go over to the bandsaw and finish that up. Trim these parts off, and then I get to trim the tenon afterwards. So it's one of those things, like you can't, when you do this kind of thing for a living, you're going to do that, and you can't get upset about it, right? You just got to be like, okay, that's what happened. Now I got to fix it. And it's never the end of the world. It's just the thing that you got to do. You almost have to anticipate it happening, but that's the key. It's everybody makes little, mistakes, but it's the pros are the guys that are going to be like, now I'm showing it to you. Nobody would show you this, which is a funny thing because I'm not doing the picture folders like I used to, pretty intricate with all the detailed photos. But part of that is because right now I got a new computer, and then that's screwed up with my server, and then I got my email to work on my computer, but then my email wasn't working on my phone, even though it was all the same information. So I don't have my Outlook set up on my phone right now. And that's how I used to do it. I would take pictures, and then throughout the day I'd email them to myself. So when I got home, I'd have all these emails of images that I can then take and put into my photos, on the computer. And I can manipulate them there a little bit. Then I can upload them to Facebook off my computer. So I got to sort that issue. There's a whole bunch of technical stuff that I've got to get going on, including, still getting paid for YouTube, which, by the way, I'm close to getting that done, but I'm slightly dyslexic, so I'm dealing with the YouTube partner people, and they're telling me what to do, and I go there to do it, and it's not working exactly right, or I have a question, and I got to go back to them, and then they answer it, and then I go back, and I just shut down for some reason. It's just hard for me to get that sort of stuff done. So it's all on me. I'm not blaming anybody else. just got to trim this to 2.5 inches. Then I'm back to working. All right. Just wanted to show you this here. Now you see why you want to do a story stick, and remember to put everything that's supposed to be on there on the story stick, unlike I did yesterday. Alright, I'm okay now. Back. Now I'm where I should have been starting from already today, and this has taken about 2 hours. Is that right? I was doing some other stuff. You'll see the other video today. I am also doing some solar panel and power station stuff to make another video at the same time that I'm doing this. So yeah, let me just think for a second here. Noon 30, 1:30. Oh yeah, it's about an hour. It didn't take that long. It didn't take all that long to get it right, but I would have preferred to be done with this by now. All right, so my day did not go according to plan. I got everything worked out. I laid out those angles, but I never got them cut because I ended up, stupid people. I ended up on a video chat, which you just saw in the other video, with 2 girls I went to high school with. They're living together in Florida right now. So, and I'm not kidding. It's 10 to 5. I was probably video chat with them for like 3 hours. I just couldn't get them to stop. But it was good. I haven't talked to either one of them in a long time. So I guess Monday I'll get those leg assemblies together and it'll be fine. It's just how things go sometimes. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be good to one another. I'll catch you all in the next one.